Thank you, Mary. There's two cars, a white Suzuki and a blue hand has got its lights on. Do you need an umbrella? You can move quickly. So I'm very happy to introduce Carolyn, to feel that we've captured her because she's just back in Australia for a few months visiting family, and we were able to entice her to come down here just to meet with you. And she's an incredibly interesting person, I must say. At some time she had a business here called About People, and that was most appropriate because if there's something I would say about Carolyn, it is she's so interested in people and enabling people or guiding people to sort of fulfill or reach their potential. And so she's very gentle, she's quite adventurous, and her topic for tonight is next. And isn't that a good topic for the beginning of the year? We don't have to worry what went before or what's coming after maybe, but what's next for us to get there. So I will be very happy to put Carolyn in this chair. It's interactive, but okay. And it's interactive, but it's up to Carolyn to conduct that. I didn't mention the facilities here. The bathroom's just over there for anyone who hasn't been here before, and just outside the door there's fresh, cool, filtered water. And my name's Jacqueline, and I've got the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker to you. So, over to Carolyn.
Jim, this has a red light. Is that okay? Okay. Yeah. Is that okay? All right. Okay, so if I talk, does that work? All right. Now what to do with this? Hold it. Some of you I know, which is saying something because I haven't been here for a number of years, and I used to basically live here every other day. That'll be my mum. She knows I'm here. No, it's not true. That's all right. There are places, you know, in the world where that happens in the middle of lectures or meditations and people answer it. And you go, at least here we go, oh, sorry, I forgot. But in some other place, they just talk over the top. It's amazing. So it's for me really a fantastic pleasure to be here. Jackie says I came especially for this. Not really true. But I know she's good at making everybody feel good. What I came because I used to live here, and And I love Melbourne, and I have some very good friends and kind of spiritual family here who I love to visit. But more than that, this specific time I came because it was on the weekend Jackie's 80th birthday party. Get that, 80. Like, you know, if you think about next, that's what you want for next, isn't it, when you get to 80? And it was a hoot. It was total fun, because that's kind of who Jackie is too. She's deep and light and broad, and you know, when she said about me she's gentle and adventurous, I thought, I don't think I'm that, but she is. You know, I was sharing with someone yesterday, you know, she's really one of the most non-violent people I know, whereas I'm a bit pushy. I can be a bit like that, you know, move things along a bit. But I take inspiration in these last few days that I've been here, watching how, you know, things get moved along, but with gentleness, with non-violence. I think, you know, that's a very good aim, isn't it? To be able to move things along, or move with things as they're moving along. Maybe it's more like that. So, I think this doesn't work to going up, because it's gone over. It went up and over. It's okay? Okay, sorry for... There we are. I think that's going to be a little better. So the topic, I don't know, who came for the topic? Anyone? Or you just come on Wednesday nights, generally? For me, but that's just because we know each other from a million years ago. Sorry to give the secret away. But the topic for me, when I was asked to put some topic while I'm in Australia, and I put this not because it's New Year, though it's useful, but I feel that how do we stay awake? You know, how do we stay on this journey of reconnecting and rediscovering, I was going to say re-becoming, which is a kind of crazy thing to say, but it's like that. How do we know we're on the right track? And is there a right track? And what's the next thing on the track that maybe or maybe not is right? And I think these are kind of complicated questions, because I think we're complicated creatures. Perhaps just me. And I like the topic. For me, it's important not to be stuck. And what happens when you get stuck? What are the feelings you're left with when you're just stuck? What do you feel? Frustrated? Unhappy? Inertia. You feel the inertia is kind of really dragging down, isn't it? What else? Do you know what I mean about stuck? This side? Trapped. Yeah. Trapped in your own story that's just going around and around. Confusion very often, no? Lots of thoughts. Should I do this? Should I do that? It's lots of what should I do, or I can't do anything. And so how do we kind of keep in the flow of something unfolding? And I want to put a bit of a paradigm breaker up front. You know, when I said paradigm, you know, it's not a new word anymore, it's a really old word, but I don't know any other word that works as well. You know, it kind of went through its popular phase and then it became unpopular, but I don't know, is there another one to use? On Saturday I was in Fitzroy and there was this girl, Bianca, there, and every time I got stuck, she said something fantastic, and I just, you know, want to take notes because she was really top. So I hope there's another Bianca here. So in terms of paradigm, is there another way to say it? Like, it's like headspace, isn't it? Like another way of looking, seeing, another way, another model, another mindset, another way of interpreting being, relating with, that's completely, fundamentally different. Paradigm reminds of a shift, yeah. I mean, you can have a paradigm without shifting. It's just like another model or another, it's not a model, and you go to that space, which is new, and it's a paradigm shift. You've moved. And so I want to throw open, to start with, a shift in paradigm, or a way of thinking about things that I hope is useful. Because if you're here, it's because you're called in this moment to a different level of consciousness, you know? And maybe you come here regularly and you do other things regularly, and you're weaving your way home to yourself, I think is the way to say it. And I think there's a confusion that can happen. And I think it comes from the paradigm in which we live, which is the achievement model, which says we're not enough and we have to get better. We have to improve, we have to learn, we have to change, we have to become better than we are. We don't have enough and we're not enough. And I think what happens when we start on this sort of spiritual awakening, this becoming more conscious, we bring the same paradigm and we just overlay it, the same way of looking at things and the same way of interpreting, and we go, okay, I'm not enough and I've got to get better. And the way that we listen to things is from that paradigm, that headspace that goes, okay, so what have I got to do to be the best me I can be? And then I look at other people, I go, oh, geez, she's a good me, or he's a good, oh, can I be like that? No, I can never be like that. And so we bring the same old processing, and we listen to certain teachings, or we read certain things, and, you know, sometimes we come from that I'm not enough, pretending to be I'm more than enough, which is a bit more arrogance, or the I'm pathetic and I'm really not enough. But spirituality for me, this awakening, is not about got to get better. It's not about perfectionism. It starts with the premise that who I am is absolutely enough. Only who am I? And this meditation that Carmen just had recorded that we listened to is kind of starting to indicate that. Is, you know, when I start to let go. And I noticed myself, I came, you know, back from Melbourne this afternoon, and I got here and I had little time and went in and I ironed and showered and and I sat down and go, let go, and I went, oh. You know, I felt myself letting go and letting go, this light, letting go, let go, let go. But well, who is it that's letting go? Who's letting go? And that, what'd you say? I. Okay, I am letting go, and who is I? Soul. So you know the theory really nicely. Good. Do we live like that? Yeah, I don't. And I've been doing this for 25 years, and one of the things I'm really clear about is that I need to do more of that aligning, more of that tuning into, that more of that remembering, more of that finding the space inside to sit in who I am and feel good about that, because that's enough. I don't have to become anything more. I don't have to achieve anything. I don't have to be greater than I am, or look at someone else and go, oh, Silvana's looking pretty terrific these days, so I think I better, you know, shape up. It's not about that. And yet, we come here, or wherever you know, find your community of spirituality, and we still bring that same old model. So I want to start, the premise is erroneous. It's wrong. chuck it out. And you're hearing me say those words, but I don't know if you'll buy the story. Because it's so ingrained, you know, that, oh, I'm not doing that right. Who sits there, who goes, oh, I can't meditate? Who thinks they can't meditate? You go, I try and I can't meditate. You know, I'm trying to get to the meditation Olympics and I'm just not going to get there. We have this sense of having to be more than we are. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's not, but it's a very good point. Because you can live with paradox. So I'm going to repeat what you said because the people who are on the webcast didn't hear you say that. That I began by saying, you know, you feel yourself get stuck. And, you know, so getting stuck, but then you have to be more. And so there's a contradiction there. And what I wanted to highlight is, you know, who I am is enough if I could just be who I am more often. But what we've got is what? We've got who I really am and who I think I should be, who I act out as, the true self, who I really am. And that's when I'm like, oh, relief. I don't have to wear any masks. You know, I'm not pretending anything. I don't feel like I'm being judged. I don't have to perform. And even then, maybe I'm not getting to the real self. It's if I can maintain that constantly. But most of us are trapped in the egoic survival self. The one who I think I am. So it usually is connected with this. So I am Carolyn Ward. I was born in Sydney. You know, I have a certain set of numbers that say I'm a certain age. And in some places that would give me respect, in other places derision. I have a certain set of numbers that would tell me how much this body weighs, and in most places that's not going to get me a lot of respect unless I move to Africa. And the thing is, do I identify with those things as the essence of who I am? In Chile, where I live, the first thing that they ask you, they say, oh, hi, what's your profession? Now, if you don't have a profession, or you're a teacher, for example, they're doing this the whole time. Who's the engineer? Who's the doctor? And where did you study then? Yeah, they can do. They can, because in Chile that's really important too. Latin America. Maybe they assume I am, or perhaps if I turn up like this, I get dispensation, you know. Or I can say, yes, I was. My husband died, and then they're really stuck. They don't know what to do then. Children, have you got any children? No. Okay. But as a foreigner, I get, you know, sort of some level of dispensation. But normally we identify with the story that goes with this. And so if I live in a world that is that's celebrating, you know, women who are like this, I'm doing just great. And if I'm in a world that's celebrating men like something else, or women like something else, I'm done for. So when I talk about getting stuck, who gets stuck? The ego gets stuck. Or I get stuck like a barnacle, pegged, I mean not pegged, that's Spanish, stuck to, pasted to the ego, you know, and the ego goes to a grinding halt. And then what I'm trying to do in spirituality is I'm trying to make a better ego. I'm trying to better the survival self. Now, I think the ego has had a lot of bad press, and I don't think it should. I think it's been a terrific help when we've been disconnected from who we really are. When we've been lost to the source of our own truth and our own power, our own beauty, our own flourishing energy, then we had to do something to get through the day. So what did we do? We identified with all the things that were reasonably good. We said, okay, that'll do. And I'll go and learn that, and, you know, I'll wear these clothes that have this particular label, and I'll drive this kind of car. And so we construct something better that the world apparently thinks is better. But we get stuck if we're trying to wake up as who we really are. We get stuck by trying to improve this identity that's actually not who we are. And so that makes it clear, doesn't it? Or not? Is that clear, or? Yeah? But you're not 100% convinced, Lydia. Okay, well, that's all right. You look, do you know what? What I want to say to that is it's possible. However, in a class the other day I was reading, it said, a mango seed will always give a mango tree. So if you look at the big problems, sometimes you don't go back to the seed and find what's the seed. And I find that usually the seed is I've identified incorrectly. And then the tree grows and the branches, and I've got this thing I have to sustain that doesn't feel solid, that I'm not comfortable with, or that's dying. And I'm trying to not die, but it's not really me. And the ego, this is the thing on a spiritual journey. Who's been on a spiritual journey for some time? Let me have a look. You're all kind of old. Not all. Sorry, didn't mean that. And some of you are kind of just starting out. Yeah. Okay, terrific. Listen really well to this. No. It's this waking up part. Well, you start the living thing, and I mean there's a big lot of questions there, Lydia, when you're born. When are you born? But one of the things I want to say is don't, if you're just starting, really put this thing of comparing and you've got to become better and achieve, and I'm not getting it, just not relevant. Doesn't work. You've got to be kind to yourself. It's like if this real self, this seed of who I really am, is buried away behind the masks, I've got to be kind. I've got to, be gentle and generous to get that, to have courage to come out, which is, what I think the journey is about. Who I am is enough. I've just got to show up. And that requires courage, and it requires kindness, and it requires attention, nourishment, and yes. How do you know when you've shown up? It's a really good question. What do you think? What would you say? When you're happy with yourself. Yeah, not on a temporary basis. No, a kind of, when you stop searching. Okay, that's a good indicator. Yeah. That's a really interesting point. Who says as it should be? The word should is an interesting one. I would retire should, must, have to be. When everything feels right on an ongoing basis. Yeah, because there's a constancy to it too. Yeah. Okay, that's when I'm accepting of myself, warts and all. A real deep acceptance of myself. And I want to say that is such a good starting point. And even it's probably accepting a mix of my true self and the survival self. But it doesn't matter, the acceptance part is the point. Because, is anyone familiar with the work of Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force? Is anyone, yeah? I might drag, with the help of Trustee Tim, this whiteboard over. Sorry, webcast people, we're just coming back. It's going to have to go here, isn't it? So, okay. Can you bring me a couple of others? It's just, yeah, because it's just the one. David Hawkins, and this is useful in terms of alignment, I think. You know, I would encourage, this is from my own suffering process over suffering and no suffering anymore process over the last 25 years. I suffered the first 10 years of my so-called spiritual journey doing the achievement thing, and I suffered because I was never enough, and I turned my heart like this. I was hard with myself. I was super demanding, and I was measuring myself and listening to teachings in a way that I was never enough. And I only suffered. It was such a sorrow. And some of you would have heard of one of the senior teachers that we have, who's a woman about this tall, and she just turned 100 this month, Daddy Janky, and she's not the rapper. There is a rapper, you know, Daddy Janky. It's not her. She looks more like Yoda. She really does, kind of this, and she's wise like that. But I remember being in a car with her in London, going from one place to another, and in those early years, the 10 years, trying to be the best spiritual person, which was nothing to do with who I am. It was like some idea of what a spiritual person is, and suffering. And I kept asking her questions, but why, and but why? She said, look, if you're experiencing sorrow, you've got the wrong method. Which of course is super logical, isn't it? But I was so committed to this hyper demanding of myself, you know, that if I, you know, took this model of I've got a vision, which is a completely distorted vision based on my conditioning of what my parents and my schooling and my culture and the media all said I should be. And so I don't even know I'm looking through those filters, but I am. And I'm listening to everything based on that, and then trying to reach it. So she said, you know, if you're not experiencing happiness, if you're experiencing sorrow, wrong method. I couldn't even hear it. I was so committed to the other way. Until I got to the age of 40. And that was 10 years. And I said, no, I cannot spend another 10 years suffering like this. And it was a big challenge because I loved this life. And I loved the BKs, not the whole package, but more or less, you know, on average you go, yeah, all right, it's pretty good. And, you know, and then I learned, of course, about projection, and you know, what you don't love is really you anyway. But I said, I can't continue in this vein. I just can't. I have to risk walking away if this is the way you have to do it, because I cannot do it anymore. It doesn't make sense. Of course, not realizing it was my interpretation of something that is nothing at all like that. And in that I just said, okay, the next 10 years have to be different. They're about, and these two words came out of my mouth, and I'm not suggesting your two words, but sometimes things come to you like a gift, intuitively, you know. And the words that came to me were innocence and joy. And I really had absolutely no idea what that meant. Innocence for me meant like children, and of course I was a mature adult, you know, an intelligent woman. I wasn't going to be like a child, which was, you know, a ridiculous notion anyway. but I didn't know what it meant. And joy was like a Christmas carol. You know, happiness, I could have said, oh, no, I kind of get an idea what happiness is, though wasn't experiencing it so much. But what is joy? What is it? I really had no ideas, but I felt that they were gifts. And so I kept orientating myself during that next decade, which has now passed, and I'm in another one. And it was spectacular. Just as kind of a side in parenthesis, what is innocence for you? I would sell innocence every day to every mature adult in the universe. What is innocence for you? Oh, I think it's the opposite of belief. Yeah. Naivety, unaffected. Unaffected from outside influence. Truth. Pure heart. Sense of wonder. Yeah. Trust. Childlike inquisitiveness is the innocence. Acceptance. Yeah. Definitely honesty. But not that honesty that goes, I'm honestly going to tell you what I think of you. Not that kind of honesty. Then you're affected.
Not questioning everything.
Not questioning everything. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's all of that in a bundle, you know, and I think for me where I got to with it and why I would like to share it is that it really is about showing up fresh in each moment. You know, that I don't bring with me baggage from the past and place it, project it onto this moment. So there's newness, it's a new way of seeing in each moment, which gives you the awe, the wonder. You can't be inquisitive, childlike inquisitiveness or wonder, if you're bringing baggage and placing it into this moment. It makes your vision go like this. Yeah. 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 So thinking of life as an adventure, seeing opportunities and, you know, part of this freshness. It is, for me, about being present. You know, I'm here in this moment now. And I remember when I started, you know, doing this kind of thing, teaching or sharing or whatever, I was so nervous. You know, I think most people know what it is to feel nervous in like speaking in public. And your mouth dries, your brain goes dead, you start to sweat and panic. And really, I heard once a woman from the United States, Angeles Arian, and she said, the best I can do is I do my work and then I show up. So there we are, back to show up. How do you know when you've shown up? And that's it. I don't have to be more than that because that's all I am. And the thing is, I am the best me in the universe and you are all the best yous in the universe. There's no one better, but you're really poor copies. We're poor copies. If we're trying to kind of measure up to or copy someone else, and we're mostly kind of conditioned to do that, you know, we'll always be at least second best, but probably, you know. So this thing of innocence, what it also does when you're present, when you're in the moment, and you're not projecting your fears or your dislikes or whatever, your intuition's really sharp. You know, you catch stuff. You know what to do. You connect with others. You can feel what's happening for someone. Awareness, yeah. Awareness that isn't coloured, you know, that isn't filtered through all your own distortions. And so when we're talking about next For me, it's a lot about that. How do I, when I'm present and I'm not pretending, I'm not hiding things, which takes courage, and even I don't always know whether I am or not. It's like that question, am I showing up, am I not? Who's showing up? You know, so I have courage, and is it really me? And, you know, it doesn't matter if it is or it isn't. The point of acceptance is where I'm going to get leverage. And I want to say that because this work by David Hawkins, now, can everybody, yes. And what he talks about is power versus force. And that most of the time when we're in this false identity, which is like a constructed self, we're in the energy of force. We're pushing, we're manipulating, we're thinking, what do I want? You know, that question, what do I really want? What do I want to do with my life? What's my purpose? What do I want? And that seems like a really valid question. But what that brings then is I have to start pushing things, moving things. And what he says is that that is force, and it will usually bring some kind of suffering. And so that there is maybe a different way. And I just want to, he's worked out a way to measure different states of consciousness, different emotional states. And one of the things he says that is quite powerful, I think, is that the closest state to death is shame. And in the measuring of it, he says on his measures 20, and he goes up to 1,000, sorry. So shame is really low-level stuff. So if you shame someone else or you shame yourself, it's like, you know, you doing some real violence to the self. So when I talk about kindness and, you know, being gentle and encouraging, if you think you've been hiding away and you've abandoned yourself because you were told you had to be something else, you know, grow up being better, then you abandon yourself and you go, wow, am I good enough? And then you beat up on yourself. That's even worse. So he says there's shame, then it comes guilt, then I think it's apathy and hatred. And then after that comes desire, I think. Desire, anger, and pride. And that these are all force. There's a portal, an energy that takes us from force potentially into power. Now, I'm living in a Spanish-speaking world, and it's really interesting in a different language. The word power has, the verb is poder, and it also means power. And what it means is I can. Yo puedo. Poder, power, can. And I think it's a very good definition of power. It just means I can do what I want to do. Not like what I want to do, but I can. Without any pressure, I can. It's just I can. So the soul is connected to its source, to its natural resources to live its life. You know, I can live my life. And that it feels natural. I'm not cranking it up, you know. So there's a portal here. I'm going to go and get a new colour because this one's not working. That's the best of a bad lot. Well, let's go with black, because black everyone can see. So there's a portal here which takes us through to power. And it means we have to leave behind being a victim, leave behind projecting stuff out, blaming partners, children, governments, parents. Can't blame anyone anymore. This is the world of blame. It's where we put all of our world externally. You know, what is happening to me is because of things outside. So if we were to let go of being a victim, let go of blaming others, let go of expectations, what do you think we would need in order to let go? And that's the portal. What quality do we need to let go of that? Who said that? Courage. It's a big courage to let go of dependency, of expectation, you know, of not being responsible. So it's the courage to say, I'm responsible. Whatever's happening for me, I'm responsible. Not like, I'm responsible. Not like that heavy burden, but like a freedom, really. Maybe I have to learn some stuff about how to do it, but I'm responsible. Wow, courage. Now, the trick with courage is that you can use courage to fight what you don't want, which brings you straight back here into force. And you use a whole lot of energy fighting what you think is wrong and you don't like, instead of just leaving it and going creating what you are here for, creating. So courage, the root of the word courage is, I never spell this correctly, but let's just put it like that, cor, which is Latin. It's actually C-O-E-U-R or something like that, but I always spell it wrong. Or in the old French is courage. I think it's spelled like that, isn't it? With a J or a G?
C-O-U-R is art.
C-O-U-E-U-R. Yeah. And in Latin, and it means heart. And in the old French, courage is heart and spirit in the old. So what it's saying is that instead of being outside, we listen inside. We go connect in and have the courage to stop all the influences, like you say, to stop permitting everything outside to define me, to influence me. You know, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man, what it means to be, you know, educated, a daughter, you know, tall, fat, slim, from another culture, from whatever other culture. And so I let go of that. I let go of dependency, expectations, blame, victim, and I go in and I listen. And this is why it's so important, meditation. So you knew I was going to come to the sales pitch on meditation at some point, because basically that's what meditation is. It's a practice to sit inside my own being, you know. And we're so in a world that just pulls us out from ourselves non-stop. At some point we need to practice just stopping and connecting. And like Jackie said, it's like sitting in a rocking chair and resting in ourselves, discovering who we are and all of the resources that we have, and listening to that. And when we're there, and when you all know this, every single person in this room knows, when you listen and you hear what you need to do, it's not passive. Sometimes you've got to take action. And it's not against, it's for. And when you listen and you hear and you're clear, you just take the action. But that's when you've got the courage, when you use the courage. You all know what I'm talking about, right? When you've heard that inner voice and you follow it. Does anyone not know what I'm talking about? No, everyone knows. Everyone's had that. But we don't hear it often enough. And why don't we hear it often enough? Because we don't listen. You know, we don't create the the conditions where we can hear ourselves talking to ourselves. And I reckon that each one of us has the roadmap for our own life. And not even our parents, no matter how fabulous they might be, or terrible they might be, but you know, they've lost their roadmaps too if they're terrible. No one else has the roadmap. We've got it, you know, it's like a holographic, we could project it out. We've got the roadmap for our lives. But we have to trust that. Thank you, Silvana. And the only way to trust it is this. Have the courage to start listening and aligning. And so when we do that, on the other side here, the first, anyone remember what the first one is? I think it's neutrality. Neutrality, then there's will, reason. So it's interesting, isn't it? How much thinking we do here. You know, rationalizing things, trying to reason it out. We're just going around in circles. But here's where reason kicks in when there's clarity, when I'm not attached to any outcome. And I've got power, and I can start to use my intellect properly and reason things through. And after that is acceptance. And acceptance is at 350. Courage is at 200. Now, as you say, if we can just accept, and it doesn't matter if I'm accepting where I'm at, the warts and all, the warts being, you know, I think less, or others think less, or I'm failing or falling. That doesn't really matter. As soon as I accept, I move up into the realm, into the field and domain of the soul, of the true self. I'm starting to get closer and closer. And you know what I'm talking about, high frequencies, no? Like Christmas time in the mall. Where do you think that fits on the scale? Like if you felt, you go, ah, yeah, I can remember that vibe. Where is it? It's not a high frequency of, you know, divine beingness, is it? It's not. It's this scramble of, you know, desire and panic and anxiety and all of that. But for me, I remember the first time I went to a BK centre, and, you know, I lived a lot around here, but I just went to deliver something. And Carmen, who did that commentary before, she opened the door. This was in Sydney, and she opened the door. And I don't really remember her so much, but it was like this tsunami of some energy came from behind her and did some magic whirly-whirly on top of me. And I went, oh, what is that? And she didn't let me in the door. She just took the parcel, shut the door. It was a bit like Hogwarts, you know. I'm going, what's behind there? But I felt like, I want to know what I have to do to go back. The vibe was so other. I'd never experienced that. Well, not that I could remember, you know, that wasn't substance assisted. And so, and it was different because it was full of peace, you know. It was high, but it was full of peace. So acceptance, and then I think after acceptance, I can't remember, but then there's love and gratitude. Love and gratitude, joy, which is 540, this is 500. There's something in there I can't remember. Peace is 700, and then 1000 is enlightenment. So we're talking about energy. And when we're talking about achieving and becoming better, we're not talking about energy. We're not about the refinement. And I want to encourage and invite everybody, especially you new ones, just so good. Don't get trapped. Keep checking in when you're thinking something a certain way. Are you feeling that you're going in a higher frequency? Are you feeling lighter? you know, easier, more free, less thought, happier, these kinds of things. And it's so interesting, even if you feel sad, for example, and I've played with this, if I feel sad or I feel a little, not so much now, but a bit depressed, and I just accept it, that's extraordinary. Because it's like I'll have the feeling or the energy of sadness. And then I accept it. I go, whoa! I'm not owned by the sadness anymore. There's a distinction. I've got some, let's call it, return or consequence of something I've done, or maybe I've stayed open and I've picked up someone else's sadness even. But there's a consequence. I've got this sadness energy, but I'm not the sadness. When I accept, it's like I can go more into this. So the two things can actually coexist at the same time. And this just disappears. You're nodding your head because you know that can happen. When I just let it pass, you know, I don't identify it. I go, oh, it's so sad. You know, and in Chile they don't have this term drama queen. I've had to teach them because, you know, I think it's really, maybe it's just Australians. Because definitely, you know, I'm a proponent of that. I can be a really great drama queen, you know, take something that's small and put all my energy in it, exhaust myself to make something that's even bigger than I am, so then it overwhelms me, then I have to dig myself out with no energy left. It's a really illogical thing, isn't it? Irrational. But don't buy into the story. Don't tell a story. Have the courage to let it go, to not tell a story about what's happening. And that requires courage. You know, it really does. Jackie, what time do I finish? 8:30. Okay. Yeah, 8:30. All right, so I want to finish up that we're talking about energy. We are vibrational beings. We are energetic beings. We live as if we are beings solid. Like we are these bodies. And we're really not. And even this body is not solid. You know, scientists will tell us it's got lots of space in it, lots of water. But, you know, we fill in the gaps. And so the practice that we do in Raj Yoga is, who am I? I am this energetic being, and we come back to a point, whether it's true or not, like this point behind here, whether it's true or not almost doesn't matter, because we're not talking about beliefs. Please don't believe anything. That's where we've got stuck, believing. Go, oh, I believe that, or I believe in that, or I don't believe. It's the same thing. Believe or don't believe, it's a mind story. Nothing to do with the truth of being who I am. And that's experience. So don't fall in the trap of, oh yes, the Brahma Kumaris, I believe this, right? It's not about a dogma or a belief, here or anywhere else. That's a trap. You'll get stuck. Just keep aligning to something that feels more light, that makes you feel more free, where you feel like, oh, that was me. I didn't have any masks, and it was a bit vulnerable, but I survived it, and it was good. I didn't have to use the energy to hide, or energy to deflect, or defend, or project. There's a scripture in India. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. Has anyone heard of it? Many of you have. Yeah, so you've read it. Oh, okay. In the Bhagavad Gita, okay, so you can borrow it. Well, in most libraries you can get it on Kindle. You can download PDFs. whatever is your current technological preference. In the Gita it says the biggest illusion under which us human beings live is that we think we are doing something. That is wonderfully humbling and liberating. And what it means by that, it says we're not really doing anything. It's the 3 gunas. I'm going to write that. The 3 gunas that are doing it, which basically means energy. It says these 3 gunas. One is sattvas. The second one is rajas. And the third is tamas. I think it's like that. Sattvas is the energy of truth. Not like beliefs, not like information or knowledge, but where something is just pure, it's clean. You walk in, you go, oh. Or you're in, it's like you're in a clean river that's flowing and nothing blocks it. Even if obstacles come, it just keeps moving. Nothing is tainted, it's truth. And the result of living in truth is what? How do you feel? Liberated? Clean? Happy? Happy, joyful, yeah. You know, there's nothing that's pulling, that falsehood is not part of your story, it's not pulling you down. You're not struggling. You're just aligned in this truth. Rajas is kind of in between, but what it says, the kind of, perhaps the fundamental of that is the basic driver is desire. And this can be the desire for anything. People sometimes talk about pure desire. I think you're kidding yourself, really. Pure desire might be desire to be spiritually evolved. But what happens with desire? What happens? One, we know it's here. Disappointment. It can be disappointment, or you get what you wanted and it's not really satisfying. Or you get what you wanted, it's satisfying, and now you go, someone gets one better. They look happier. Or maybe they want mine. Now I've got people who want what I've got. And so there's always some level of suffering, they say, with this one. So desire doesn't work. And tamas is this inertia, as Tim said. Indulgence, total indulgence in the lowest energy of blur, You know, so if you're thinking about a river that's flowing, this is when the river's overflowed and it's just hanging in the mud of the plains. There's no flowing going on at all. I know this energy really well. You know, I've hung out there and got lost there, not recently, but, you know, in the not so distant past, I can remember it. And many of you nod because it's a human condition. You know, it's like you're going and then you go, Argh! And then you go down in a spiral and you're stuck. And so what I would like to do now is a practice that is about, I don't have to change, I don't have to become, I just have to, even I don't have to, but if I would like to, align, tune into, connect with, remember. Because this field, if you think about it, it's a field of energy. And it's this vibration that we know when we're happy. And it feels natural, even though it can feel scary, right? When you're happy, you go, oh, this feels natural, but it's not going to last. So you can have the anxiety that you're going to lose it quickly. Or you don't know when. Especially if you grew up in a dysfunctional family, and that's like 99.99% of the population. So this field, every one of these is a field, and you know, the world is holding very strongly these two fields of tamas and rajas. advertising sits very firmly in Rajas. They're like kings. Anyone work in advertising? I'm sorry if you do. But they're like the kings of Rajas. You know, they make you want things. Even you don't need them, but they're going, you know how they connect pure value of freedom or love to a car. You know? I remember driving along, what's the road? Brighton, coming down Nepean Highway. So this huge billboard, this is like years ago, this huge billboard with this convertible yellow, I don't know what kind of car, I don't remember the brand, or and it said, you don't drive it, you date it. You know, that's just, no, I think it worked. But you know, you can see them all over the place. Once you're aware, you go, wow, I'm buying this peanut butter because it's telling me I'm whatever, you know. It's just a scam, big scam, using our sadness or our lostness to manipulate us. So human beings are holding these energies, and everywhere you turn, influenced, if we're looking here. And for me, sattvas is not held by human beings. And for me, this is where this idea of a presence that is outside of our human system that's got lost and manipulating. And this presence is the holder of this field of sattvas. And this presence is constant, eternal, only beautiful, pure, true energy, and love, unconditional, accepting, and you can put whatever name you like to it. You can call it a source, universe, God, Allah, beingness, what doesn't matter. Don't get hooked in language, and don't believe it and don't not believe it. It's not about belief, it's about feeling, tuning, experiencing. And belief will stop. Whether you believe it or you don't, will stop us having access to this highest field of energy, because our mind will get in the way. Now this is our home. It's the soul's home. It's here. Peace, joy, enlightenment. We are light. This is energy, but it's a lower frequency. So we're going to practice now tuning up. And I think this is, for me, meditation. This is about how we return home to who we really are. So when we show up, we go, oh, that was it, I just showed up. And I know because it was easy. And I don't have any questions or thoughts about it after. And they say there's a trick in this one. Sattvas, you know, like, did anyone see that film, The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino? Anyone? Not so many. Anyway, you know, the devil kind of conquers this young lawyer guy, and he seduces him with all the things of, you know, the world, money and women and position and everything, and, you know, it destroys his lovely marriage. And anyway, he gets out just in time before he's completely lost. And he goes, his wife's, you know, she recovers, and they go back to their little hometown, and he goes back to practicing law like a, you know, like a noble young man, noble young lawyer. And he goes in and he's done this case, and he's walking out of the courtroom, and this journalist stops him on the way. And he says, that was pretty terrific. You know, I'd love to interview you about that. And he goes, no, I'm not interested. Not interested in any interviews. And his wife says, come on, done, let's go. And the guy says, yeah, but how many other lawyers are, you know, speaking their truth out? And, you know, we don't see this often. I think it's a story that needs to be told. He goes, really, no, really, I don't want any of that. He said, look, let me give you my card. And just in case, because, you know, if you don't turn up, show up, we don't have any examples. He goes, yeah, all right, okay. And they walk off down the stairs, and this journalist becomes Al Pacino again, the devil, and he goes, pride, it gets him every time, you know. And so in every level there's going to be some, it's not like the devil, but the shadowy part of us, you know, the ego doesn't like to die. You know, it's had reign of the kingdom for a long, long time, so it doesn't want to retire. You know, it's like the baby boomers. Baby boomers don't want to retire. We want to keep owning the world, and the ego is very much like that. So when you go to sattvas, no need for ego, so the ego does its job. And they say that what is the trick here is pleasure, because when you're in that lightness and alignment and everything's good, it feels really good. And then you start to kind of lock in and come down into the pleasure of it. Instead of being in the light and the freedom and the flow of it, you stop. So I only tell you that because it's kind of fun also. It's a good game. But what I'd like to do is, for the next, it'll be more than 3 minutes because it's a nice experience, is just practice this. Because I don't think we can think our way into what's next. Our thinking is imbued with beliefs. Our thinking is designed by the ego. And so the ego will just plan more of the same. Maybe in a different frock, but it'll come back the same. You know, it won't be transformation, it'll be change. And you know that saying that change is just like moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. You know, the ship's going down still, but you feel like you're doing something. So just change boats. This is the paradigm. We've got to move boats, move ships. So we're going to go here. Want to have a play with that? Practice? Yes? Okay. So comfortable but alert. And we'll do this completely with silence, no music, because we don't need it. We're just going to feel our way into ourselves, really, because it's our natural domain, energetic domain. And when we're there, it's like, in a way, next just unfolds, because we're in ourselves, and our life unfolds. You know, the way the mango seed gives birth to the mango tree, the seed of who I am gives birth to the life that is my life. And so just find yourself kind of sitting comfortably. I'm going to put that out of the way for a moment. My stool back. So sitting comfortably but alert. If you're feeling a bit sleepy, a bit hot, just don't close your eyes. Just look down and soften your eyes a little bit, but keep them open. And as you take each breath, imagine that you can, with each breath out, you just let go of story. Let go of any pretense, even if you don't know that you're doing it. It's just as if you can, in a way, sort of double back, fold back into the seed of who you really are. Without thinking, don't think about this, just intuitively imagine that that's what you could do. Back to that point, the seed. And now, being a vibrational being, you know that. You know feeling. You know if you walk into a room and something's gone down that was pretty heavy, you can feel that. Equally, when you walk into a place where people are happy, you can feel that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to tune into the highest frequency, the highest vibration that you can find. And it's like the soul, you, this eternal being, that sits energetically as a base in the center of the forehead. It's like from that space you're going to tune upwards, like you're climbing a vibrational ladder, but in a very natural way, tuning up, like a radio tunes frequency. You're tuning to high frequencies. You're just finding the highest frequency that you can find on that ladder upwards, that pulls you really, because it's kind of like going home. You don't have to think, you just need to allow, let it happen. And you arrive to this field of pure energy, of this sort of truth energy, this sattvas. You don't have to do anything there. You just float, or align to, or let go into, lean into. You just keep leaning into it. And there is an eternal constant presence that you may feel, remember. And you can just lean into that as well. And that is like enlightened presence, which is to reflect like a mirror your own divine presence. You can just lean into that too if you like. Letting go and leaning in, leaning up. And maybe even that presence is a little bit like a magnet that draws you. So you don't have to do any work, you just have to let go. Become familiar with this field again. Let it feel like home. Let it feel like, I don't know, that you're sitting in a really deeply comfortable armchair that was made just for you. And you can let go completely and lean in. Such beauty. And each time you can let go, you somehow feel lighter and float higher. Yeah, feel lighter. Feel sustained, held, a very free way. And a deep, deep security. Like really being in home. With complete, somehow this sense of, I don't know, protection even. Maybe it's that. That's all it takes. During the day, wherever you are, while you're waiting, in moments you don't have to think or pay attention. Just remember to tune in, to tune up this vibrational ladder and find where you feel really at home, satisfied, content, full, secure. And think what your day, your life, your relationships, everything would be like if you could act more and more from that space. Showing up from the seed, the original copy, from the original, not as a copy. Aligning, tuning, leaning into. So bringing your awareness to this space, but just allowing yourself to stay connected to that higher frequency. Which takes some practice. Take 1 minute with the person next to you and don't go into a big conversation, but just a few words to share, not when you didn't connect, but when you did connect. Share just a few words on what it felt like when you did connect, when you did find it. Someone behind you. Okay. Thank you. So, on a point of integration, that's really important, because it's really easy to talk about and remember where you stopped connecting or where your thoughts went somewhere else, or, you know, but there's always a moment when you did connect, even for just a moment. That's worth grabbing a hold of and expanding and remembering. Did it feel natural? Like you go, oh, that's it. That's the one. Yeah. So I remember my first meditation, I felt this unlimited freedom, and I'm sure it was only 3 seconds maximum, but it was enough to make me go through the desert at times. That first 10 years where I don't do what I did, really. But that 3 seconds was such truth, such sattva, such connectedness. I went, that's what I want. And so don't dismiss the small moments. Expand them, live in them, breathe them, and let the other go. Thank you.
This is a way that we meet together. So you can everyone can either come up and say hello to you and get a biscuit, or you can go around. Which do you prefer?
Or you can just say goodbye and not take a biscuit. I'd recommend a biscuit. It's been cooked with a lot of love.
Fresh today, made about only a couple of hours ago.
Okay.
So I really do want to, you know, it's kind of traditional to thank you, and that's not so easy, is it? Because each of us has taken such personal things and such alignment for ourselves. So maybe you can do it in the exchange of the biscuit for yourself. That's the newness that we've introduced with this. Yeah, you come in across the bridge. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, and same place next week.